friends. Hey, it's Deanna here again. I have a special guest with me today. But first, I have to tell you, it's Friday. What a week it has been. I don't know where you stand, but I have to say, I got up super early this morning and felt like I could dance through the streets. Went out for a really great 3-mile walk and hit a personal best in my timing of my walk. Felt really great throughout it. And I'm hoping that wherever you are and whatever you're doing right now, there feels like a collective out breath that might be happening. And I feel like there's a windstorm that might be happening, that's not a windstorm. It's actually a collective out breath that you might be experiencing. So I have a really special guest with me today. Her name is Chantal Donelly, and I want to bring her into the studio right now. Hi, Chantal. How are you?
Hey, Deanna, I am good. How are you?
Oh, my friend. It's Friday, and I think there was a collective out breath that might have happened for many people today for whatever reason. And so I'm doing great. I had a nice long walk. I texted you this morning and said felt I could have danced maybe the whole 3 miles. But yeah, so I'm doing great. I'm so glad you're here though.
Thanks for having me. This is fun.
Well, you're my very first guest, my friend.
I am honored. Yeah.
I want to tell anyone who ends up watching or listening to this that Chantal and I met just kind of haphazardly on the road. We were both walking. I was with my friend Heather, who is a friend of yours, maybe not as
Heather.
Yeah.
I don't know Heather too well, but I would consider her a friend. Yeah, so we have a
good.
friend.
Great. Yeah. And she stopped us in the middle of the road and said, "Oh, you two need to meet." And she explained what we both do, and I was immediately intrigued when she introduced you as someone who had a skill set in resiliency toolkit and coaching. And I was like, I want to learn from this woman. And so reached out to you and you responded. And I have to say, it's just been a great treat for me over the last, how long has it been now? 4 or 5 months?
At least, if not longer.
Yeah. I know. And we've talked about everything under the sun, it feels like, how this friendship has really just blossomed in the middle of the pandemic.
It's pretty cool.
Pretty cool. So Chantal, will you just share with anyone who's watching a little bit about your background?
Sure. I am a physical therapist. I have a practice, a studio in Pasadena, California. And I'm also a certified resilience toolkit facilitator, which basically means that I am a nervous system and stress management expert. And I do hate using the word expert because I think that everybody, whether it's your body, your nervous system, your muscles, your tendons. So whether it's my physical therapy background or my stress nervous system background, I'm not the expert in you. You're the expert in you, and I'm here to guide that. But what I am is an expert in the research, and especially with the resilience and stress and nervous system research. I have studied, when I got my certification as a facilitator, we study every single stress theory, all the research behind stress, all over the map. We study the pros and the cons of each theory and which ones still stand and which ones don't and why. And so I have that background to sort of help guide people in their own understanding of their own stress responses. I also, as a physical therapist, have done 2 rehab exercise DVDs or videos. I guess we want to call them videos now. DVDs are kind of long gone, right? So I have videos on the market. One of them is called Strong Knees. It's for people with knee pain. And the other one is called Pain Free at Work. It's for people who spend too much time in front of a computer, like all of us.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So
I feel like that should be a #1 selling video right now, just because we're all sitting in front of these computers all day long now.
It really should be. It's not, but it should be. Yeah, I mean, basically,
I'm going to help you with that, Chantal.
Okay. Yeah, the thing with that video is I basically created an exercise program to help people's bodies prepare to sit for long periods of time. Because when we go to the gym, or when we used to go to the gym, or when we're doing our exercise videos at home now, we're tightening up all the muscles that get more tight when you sit and cause pain when you sit. And so this was designed to prepare you to sit, right? To strengthen the muscles that need to be strengthened while you're sitting, and to stretch the muscles that need to be stretched while you're sitting. Yeah.
I definitely feel like I need that. You know a lot about me. We text every morning, checking in with each other. And, I'm on this walking challenge. I'm so glad I challenged myself to do this. But I sit so much in front of in this setup right here. And you were also kind enough as a physical therapist to allow me to come into your office, adhering to all the COVID standards, and work on my body a little bit. And so you know just how tight I am.
Yeah, you are not alone in your tightness, Deanna.
Right. And you do such great work. So Chantal, we started because I was so fascinated about your work with the Resiliency Toolkit and your experience in that. Maybe can you share a little bit more in that area and the collective, what we're experiencing? Maybe we'll go down how that toolkit may help us, but let's just talk a little bit about the toolkit as it stands.
Yeah, sure. So the toolkit actually came in handy during the pandemic, as you can imagine, because so many people were feeling stressed. And there is this belief that feeling stressed is bad and wrong. And when you're in the middle of a crisis, you quickly find out that stress is normal, and it's adaptive, right? So what the toolkit teaches people is not only that stress is adaptive, but it teaches sort of this framework of your stress might be helping you right now, but in the long term, it can hurt you. And so let's find out, is your stress appropriate for what you're going through right now? And if it's not, if it's too high, right? If your stress is too high for where it should be right now, do you feel safe to bring your stress level down a little bit? And if you feel safe, what tools will work for you right now, right? So everybody has a different style, and everybody is going to respond differently to different tools, right? So for some people, if I give them a breathing tool, it's actually going to make them feel worse. So it's really important, and it's built into our framework of how do you know that this tool is helping you, right? How do you know that you're stressed? Is it appropriate for what's going on with you right now? Is it safe for you to downregulate your nervous system, to calm your nervous system down? And then how do you know if that tool that you chose to use worked for you?
Okay, this is such great stuff, because that first question that you just gave, I think seems so obvious, but I don't know that all of us are that connected with our bodies to even recognize when we're in stress. So can you give us some ideas, some indicators to help us know, hey, we're in stress?
Yeah, sure. Again, everyone's different, but there is very much a universal thing that happens with stress responses. The thing that's kind of exciting about this pandemic, and even this election that we are going through right now in the United States, is that it has allowed us to kind of take a highlighter to our stress responses, because everything is just bigger. It's the same stress response that we might have felt if, we were having a fight with a loved one, let's say. But in a pandemic, that stress response is just so much bigger, and it's in that that gap between where we might normally feel stress and that higher level during a pandemic, that we can really learn what it is that we tend to do. So universally, we know that there's various stress responses that people can go to. And the one that everyone hears about is fight or flight, right? So that's your sympathetic nervous system that kicks in and you go into a fight or flight response. So we all know this, and when we talk about it, we talk about like animals, right, in the wild when we talk about fight or flight, and so it's really hard for humans to kind of make that connection. But I've actually seen fight or flight responses change with people from the beginning of pandemic to the middle of pandemic to where we are now. So in the beginning of pandemic, the stress responses looked like hypervigilance, right? Like kind of germophobia, constantly cleaning. There was the grocery shopping, hoarding, right? That was a fight or flight response. That's it's your body's way of adaptively responding to not feeling safe. Okay. And then later on, we're all up here, right? Fight or flight takes a lot of energy, and a lot of us essentially exhausted ourselves. And what happens when you exhaust all of that cortisol and adrenaline in your body in fight or flight is you slide down the curve and you end up in what we call freeze or shutdown or disconnection, right? And that's where you, instead of frantically cleaning your house and vacuuming all day long and baking, it's where you can't even get out of bed and get a shower. You just don't have the energy and you don't feel like connecting with people. You might tell yourself, if I can't see someone in person and hug them, then I don't want to see them, right? So that is sort of that shutdown that starts to happen where you just feel like you can't connect with other human beings.
Yeah, I felt like I hit that truly in August. I don't know why it took me so long, but late July and August, I just hit a wall and I stopped everything. I don't know if anyone who's watching had that same experience of finding a time when what Chantal is talking about of like hypervigilance, really overextending yourself and then freezing it down.
Yeah. So for me, I toggle back and forth between fight or flight and freeze during this pandemic. That's what's been happening with me. So some people get stuck in the freeze phase and some people get stuck in fight or flight. Some people get stuck right in the middle, right? And I'm kind of all over the map during this whole thing. I've been everywhere, right? And then what the toolkit does is it allows you to come down from wherever you are, right? And so wherever you are is, so if I'm in freeze for a little while and I do a tool and I come down, I actually have to go through fight or flight to get to a calming sort of a nervous system, your parasympathetic nervous system.
Yeah, explain that to me. I mean, because like you explained that to me earlier, and it made so much sense. And you talked about the mountain,
the curve, yeah. So yeah, it's sort of like you can think of it as a ladder, or you can think of it as a curve. Different people use different analogies for the different responses to stress. The bottom line is, when you get to freeze, it feels like depression, right? And in order to get out of that feeling, and there's ways to do it, in order to get out of that feeling, you actually have to go through fight or flight, which can feel in your body like an increase in energy or anxiety or anger, right? And so it gets really scary because you come out of freeze and you think you're feeling a little bit better, and all of a sudden you're angry or you're anxious or you just feel like you need to move, right? And people end up sliding back down into freeze because that feeling is really uncomfortable. And in fact, if you go there too fast, if you come out of freeze too fast, it is uncomfortable, and it's no wonder that you would go back into freeze. And so when we do the resilience toolkit, we literally do things for a very short amount of time, like 30 seconds to a minute max. in the beginning in particular, because we know that if people are coming out of this disassociated nervous system, it can be a little scary coming out, and it just doesn't feel good.
What was that phrase you shared with me, and you called it, and you kind of like the animals who are, after a threat that happens, and you know what I'm talking about, right?
Mm-hmm.
What is that?
You mean when they pretend they're dead? Is that what you're talking about? Sorry.
That idea of when an animal like gets prey is after them, they're safe, but they're still on.
Yes. So one of the ways of looking at stress is to look at how animals deal with stress, and there's a lot of different terminology. So what you're talking about is called attentive immobility. Yes,
the one.
Attentive immobility is kind of like getting stuck between fight or flight and freeze.
Mm-hmm.
It's a anticipated worry, right? So is that noise in the bush my friend goofing around? If it's a meerkat, is it my friend the other meerkat goofing around? Or is it a cougar that's going to come get me, right? A tiger, or I don't know what eats meerkats, whatever. A lion, I don't know. So what happens is they get sort of like this, right? They barely turn their heads because they're trying to hear what's in the bush, and they're waiting to see if they're going to run away, right? Mm-hmm. And so they're kind of stuck. So what happens when that energy gets frozen is you're partially in freeze. You're frozen. You're partially in freeze, but your heart rate is up, and you're getting ready to run, and you're very attentive to what's going on. Unfortunately, that's what's happening to a lot of us. The virus or this election is the noise in the bush. And we are constantly anticipating bad stuff. We do not feel safe. And we are safe, right? Like no one's attacking us. We're safe, but our nervous systems are on total overdrive. And so we're stuck in this attentive immobility place. And
I think this is the Karens of the world as well. Like they're just on hyper mobility of like something is amiss and I'm going to report it. Not to give a bad name to Karen. Sorry about that.
I'm glad my name isn't Karen. So I'm so sorry for all the Karens out there. Yes, they do not feel safe, right? Yeah. So the question becomes, why do they not feel safe? Right. And are they truly safe? And most of the time, yes, they are. Right. And so are we safe? Right. Mm-hmm. So let's not talk about the election, but let's talk about the pandemic.
Sure.
Are we safe right now? As I talk to you on this virtual platform, am I in a safe place? Mm-hmm. Yes, I am. Right. And that doesn't mean that I don't need fight or flight. Right. Going back to the election, social injustice and to do work as a social justice person, you actually need to be in fight or flight. Mm-hmm. You actually need some anger and you need energy to do the work, right? Mm-hmm. But if you're too much in fight or flight, you can't think clearly. You don't have the ability to be creative. We can't be creative and stressed at the same time, right? And you can't sleep. So how are you going to get anything done if you're not sleeping, right? And it's the same thing if you're a mom and you need to help your kids with school every day with their virtual school. If you're up here in fight or flight all the time, maybe you're having financial issues and you should be stressed, right? Stress is going to mobilize you to go find sources of more money, right? But if you can't sleep, you can't help your kids. If you're stressed, your kids are going to be stressed, right? So there's always a reason to ask yourself, okay, right in this moment, do I need to be as stressed as I am? Is it really helping me? And sometimes it is. If you're in an abusive relationship, maybe that stress is helping you to run away, to fight, right? Maybe that freeze, that disconnect is helping you. There are times when stress helps. It's just asking yourself, is it helping me right now? Is it doing me any good right now? Can I downregulate and settle my nervous system?
It's such a great question. And I think that question of, I mistyped, I put in the, in the chat box, but it really is, am I safe?
Am I
Like,
safe?
am I safe? And I think even just your willingness to ask that of yourself in that moment.
Mm-hmm.
And again, the power of your breath as you're asking that. Talk about that, the breath. And I know you said that idea that breathing doesn't help everybody.
No, in fact, it makes some people feel worse. And
Yeah.
it's important to know that.
Mm-hmm.
So when I teach people about breathing, in Resilience Toolkit, we have something called the settling breath. And there's so many different ways to teach breathing. The settling breath is based on research that shows that when you inhale, you activate fight or flight, your sympathetic nervous system, just a little bit, okay? And when you exhale, you activate your parasympathetic nervous system, your calming nervous system. So when we teach breathing, we teach a longer exhale than an inhale to take advantage of the fact that your calming nervous system gets activated during exhalation. So usually I would have someone just check in with their body and see where their stress level is. What are they feeling? Are they feeling tingly? Are they feeling cold? Are they feeling tightness in their chest? Do they have a headache? You know, all of these sort of things that can be various symptoms of stress. You know, active, too many thoughts in your head. There's all sorts of ways that people can feel stress, and it's different for everybody. So check in with yourself, and then you can try this longer exhalation. So if you take, say, an inhale for 3 counts, you want to double the exhalation and make it a 6-count exhalation. And then you do that a couple times. And as you're doing it, you check in with your body. And after you're done, you check in with your body to see if it's helping you, right? It's like right now, everyone is really into self-help. And you can think of breathing as being a type of self-help. But what we're not talking about is that all of the self-help information and advice that people are throwing out there might not be the right advice for everybody. It might not actually be self-care for somebody. If you're a single mom with 2 young children, and I say to you, I'm an expert at stress, you should have a hot bath, Epsom salt hot bath every night, right? And so you have to lock your bathroom door and pray that your kids don't destroy your house and hurt themselves or burn down the house while you're having your hot Epsom salt bath. It's not exactly self-care, is it? Right?
That's true.
So that's it. Self-care is great as long as you make sure that it's truly working for you.
Yeah.
Right.
Such great points. And thank you so much about that breath, and really the out breath, and having that be the focus, right? And that breathing in can ignite that. And especially if we're in that shortened breath, right?
Yeah, right. Exactly. Like that's what fight and flight takes you to, right? It's that short, fast breath. Yeah.
Yeah. Is there anything from the toolkit that you're willing to share with us besides the breath today that might kind of be helpful for us?
Yeah. So there's been some research done on, it's mostly in the world of psychology. There's research that's being done on bilateral, so both sides of the body, tactile stimulation, and crossing the midline of the body. And the research in both of those arenas shows that anything that you do that crosses the midline of the body and activates alternatingly both sides of the body will help improve resilience, and it helps to decrease the sympathetic experience, right? And so we do something called the butterfly hug. And this is a really great one that pretty much anyone can do. Do you want me to just teach it?
Yeah, I'm going to do it with you.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. We're getting ready. Okay.
Yeah.
So the first thing, of course, you want to do is you want to check in with how you're feeling right now, because we won't know if this is helping you or not if we don't do that, right?
Okay.
Okay. So if you guys want to try this, please go ahead. So you're going to take your hands, palms facing you, up towards your face. And now we're going to cross our hands. Remember, we talked about crossing the midline of the body. And then you can hook your thumbs together. Okay. And now we're going to place our hands on our chest so that our fingers are pointing up towards our collarbones, clavicles. Okay. And then from there, and you can choose your own pace with this, you're going to alternate right and left tapping. Now, I prefer pressure versus a tap. Some people like to go kind of fast and do the tap. For me, I've just explored this a little bit, kind of played detective with this a little bit over the years. And the slow, more pressurized tap, if you will, works for me. But again, you can do whatever feels good to you. You can just kind of play with it. And so as you're doing this, you're looking for things that are signs of downregulation of the nervous system. And downregulation means you're going anywhere from that shutdown, freeze that I was talking about, to fight or flight towards calm. So if you were in fight or flight, you would feel like you were calming more. If you were in freeze, you might actually feel a little bit of energy. Okay. Some signs of downregulation can be yawning. Yeah.
I knew you were going to say that. And I was actually stifling a yawn.
I don't take it personally. I like yawns. As a nervous system person, I really like yawns because it does mean that you're down regulating. Mm-hmm. And so that's a good sign for your body generally. And then sighing is another sign. Some people get eyes watering. Some people start to feel tingling in their body. Some people, it will be a cessation of tingling, right? So it's just, everyone's so different that it's really hard for me to say, but definitely yawning and sighing are two really good signs of downregulation. So as you're doing this, again, you want to really, feel see how you're feeling. And then as soon as you feel your nervous system downregulate in some way, as soon as you feel a calming in some way, you want to stop because, again, you don't want to do this for too long. You don't want to go into calming too fast, too soon, too suddenly. It can be traumatizing and it can feel uncomfortable in your body.
That's great. Thank you so much, Chantal.
Sure.
Do you mind sharing the one, I really like, the putting on the lotion?
Arm sweeps or lotion. Yeah, sure, I can share that. Yeah. So that one's also based on bilateral tactile stimulation. And I've seen that people do this naturally without even knowing that this is a tool that you can use. Like they just naturally use this. And so what it looks like is you start at your shoulder, one arm at a time. It doesn't matter which side you start on, and you sweep down the arm. So you don't have to have your arms up as high as mine are. I'm just doing that so you can see on camera. You can have your arms resting by your side, relaxed. So you just sweep down the arm one at a time. Some people like to do little squeezes down the arm. That feels better to them. I get wild and crazy and do a combination of both usually when I do this. It's really up to you. And again, so you're feeling for what's going on in your body as you're doing that. Is this making you feel better, same, or worse? And how do you know? How do you know that? Right?
Yeah, that's a great question. How do I know that? That one feels so soothing to me, I have to say, maybe because I've been living in this pandemic situation by myself for so long, but it feels like this is the human touch that I can give myself in a public forum. That's okay.
Yeah. So and it's, you can it's a really nice question to keep asking yourself is why do I know that this makes me feel better? Do I feel warmer? Is my stomach relaxing? Did my eyes water? Like keep questioning yourself because that gives you a lot of information about how your body calms down.
It also is I don't know if you have any insights to this response. When I do that, my first impulse is really to open up my chest, like the heart area, I don't know if that's a deregulation or what, but it just feels like I want to open this all up.
Well, a lot of stress people in the stress world, research world, talk about constriction being part of freeze, right? So we protect ourselves. When we're in freeze, we get the blanket and do this in bed and we don't want to move, right? And so the opening up is the opposite of that. And so it does sound like it's a safety thing. I feel safe to open up. Yeah. Yeah. Do you want to talk about your challenges?
Oh, yes. So, anyone who knows me knows that I love a good challenge of myself. I call them experiments. I call them challenges. I've done many. I've done, no sugar for 90 days. I did, I went plant-based last November, which I'm still carrying on. It was going to be like a month experiment, but now I'm just loving it. And I'm in the middle of a walking challenge right now where September 23rd marked 100 days left in 2020. And I just felt compelled because I had hit July and August and really, hit the wall and wasn't doing anything. And I put on easily 6 pounds during that time as well. I was eating out of control that I just wanted to commit to something. So I committed to 100 days of walking. And I shared that with Chantal, and she started questioning me and calling a little BS on my experience. And so, Chantal, maybe you give your insights to what you're experiencing through me, or what you're seeing in my need to control this time frame.
So, yeah. This is the thing about virtual is your teenage son likes to come into the room while I'm live on Facebook, honey.
Come on by. Just stop.
You want to come visit?
Oh,
No, he's not. Sorry.
No, this is what we do.
The joys of virtual. Yeah. I think he's foraging for food. So I love your challenges, and I don't want to take away.
Do you know, Chantal? Do you?
What you want? The reason you're doing your challenges is because you're trying to. It's a wellness thing for you. Okay. So I am into resilient wellness, not the traditional wellness, because right now the wellness. Wellness can look like it's doing something good, but really it's not. And so here, let me start with this. All of that down regulation and the butterfly hug and the arm sweeps that we talked about is to help with resilience. It's to help people be able to bounce back from adversity. Okay. Yeah. And what resilience requires is flexibility. It requires connection with other people, but it requires embodiment, which is really a connection with your own self and your own body. Okay. And what the wellness world does by saying, don't eat this, don't eat that, do this, right, is really what they're asking you for is grit, not resilience. And there's a difference between grit and resilience. Okay.
This is so good. Listen, I am listening to this wholeheartedly because I think this started because I had told you that I'm giving up bread until November 24th. And you just...
I mean, you have a whole list of things you've given up, right? Again, I'm not judging. I'm just going to question whether this is... So it's sort of like that self-care, right? Is this really helping you? So are you challenging yourself or are you punishing yourself?
Yeah.
Now, the reason I'm talking about resilience and grit is because your challenges are very gritty. There's no flexibility, right?
Yeah. Right.
I'm going to walk every single day for 100 days. I don't give a shit how I'm feeling. I don't care how my body's feeling. I don't care if I slept. I don't care. Mm-hmm. I'm going to push. I don't care. I'm not going to listen to my emotions. I'm not going to listen to my body. I'm going to push through. And I'm going to do this challenge.
Yeah.
Right. In the guise of wellness, in the guise of helping yourself.
Yeah.
But are you really and truly helping yourself, or are you punishing yourself? Are you disconnecting from your body? It's the opposite of embodiment, right? So does my body need bread? Why do I need bread? Am I using bread to numb? Or am I using bread for sustenance? How do I feel while I'm eating the bread? Right? Here's a challenge for you instead of not eating bread for 30 days. And
okay. You're going to give me a challenge. I love it.
Yes. And God bless you on the challenge. Like it's fine. Sometimes people need to find out if they're sensitive to bread. And so a good month off from bread is kind of a way to do that. Okay. But are you going to punish yourself on November 24th? I think it is. You go back, right? Mm-hmm. So on Thanksgiving, when you gorge yourself on bread, are you going to beat yourself up and tell yourself you're not a good person because you gorged yourself on bread?
No, that's never been my style. I know I'm not going to do that.
So here's my challenge for you after you're done your bread challenge.
Okay.
Every time you eat bread, you cannot be on a screen or reading or watching television. You have to savor every bite and ask yourself when you're done eating. Well, first ask yourself, when am I full? And really pay attention to that. And then when you're done, ask yourself, how does my body feel? Like, do I feel like that was sustenance, or do I feel bloated and awful? Like, really check in and find out, like, how does my body react to bread? And it might be, it reacts really great if you only eat a little bit. And you have to be embodied and really pay attention to what your signals are. Just like you pay attention to your stress signals, you can pay attention to how your body's responding to food. The interesting thing about food is that our gut, and everyone is talking about this right now, so I'm sure this isn't new to anybody, but your gut can trigger a stress response, just like a stress response can trigger a bad gut. So what you eat, if it causes inflammation, can cause a stress response, even though you're not really stressed, right? So if bread is doing that to you, then by all means, don't eat bread. But how do you know that?
Right.
And if you just stop eating bread and you say to yourself, that's it, I'm not eating bread, never. Not for 30 days, I'm not eating bread. Then how do you know what your body needs and how your body responds to bread?
No, I get it, Chantal. This is and I'm so glad you're bringing this in, my friend. And what's going through my mind is, it's kind of like an addict, like alcohol. Like for me, this bread, I am out of control with it. Truly out of control.
You were probably using it for numbing, which right now in the pandemic and the political situation we're in, numb away in as healthy a way as you possibly can. But then when you're ready, so I think what happens is when your body is ready to come out of freeze, you feel the need to put these challenges in place because you're starting to feel your body.
That's probably really true.
So these challenges are not helping you in that they're keeping you disembodied and you're not feeling.
I know, but Chantal, you and I both know this. I still love my challenge. You're probably right. I can go deeper on this for sure. For sure. And I know you'll be there to help me out with this.
I'm just going to challenge you in a different way. And you love a challenge. So hopefully
I do love a challenge. But that is a good challenge because I'm going to tell you that is not at all what I was doing with my bread. I know I would be working and get super stressed. And I have so many great friends who are baking beautiful, wonderful bread and then kindly giving it to me. And I'm willingly accepting it. And in my stress, so unconsciously am I going and tearing off big, huge chunks of sourdough bread and pouring butter on it. You know, it's so great.
Yeah.
So it's a complete stress response for me, for sure.
One of my colleagues, who also is a toolkit facilitator, has a course that she teaches. I think it's a 3-day course, and it's called Toolkit for Recovery. And I thought it was, at first I thought it was just for like eating disorders or alcoholism or drug addiction. And she was like, no, it can be anything. It can be like picking your nails, like a really bad habit that you want to stop. And how do you bring in the toolkit and calming your nervous system down so that you don't eat the bread under stress, so that you eat the bread because you want to eat the bread and it makes your body feel good. Because if you're eating it under stress, it's a numbing. It's not going to make you feel good. You're going to overeat, right? And so I thought that was a really kind of interesting way of bringing in the toolkit. And it's exactly what we're talking about right now, right?
Yeah. And you're so good about my friends, whoever's listening, I sent her a text about, I think, my bread challenge, this latest challenge I was on, amongst other things. Like I do have stack up my challenges. And she just goes, her first line was, I'm calling BS on this. And I have to say, I love a friend who will call me on my own BS. I really, really do. So I love that she was kind enough and brave enough to do that for me, and that we could have a real discussion about it.
You do it for me all the time too, right? So
right. For sure. For sure. And but I think it was really worth, because I think one of the other things that you said to me, and this was early on when we were talking about some other things, is that idea of it's also a way to feel like I'm in control of something. Right? It's a way for me to feel like, whether I am or not, I'm creating pockets of control in my life by continually challenging myself and being gritty and saying, okay, I did this. Look at me, how great I am. I can call myself on my own bullshit here too. Like, yeah. And I think you're right. And I think it is something that's really like that ability to be conscious of what I'm eating, because truly this is the area. I think I'm pretty good in a lot of areas, but this area of my eating is the one that I'm just never been in great control of, and it's been my soother. So I love that.
Alone. You're not alone.
But that willingness to say, here's a challenge for you to be away from your screen, be away from your phone, not reading, really just eating, checking in. What do you need? What do you really need? Is it this bread? Then go ahead and have the bread, but be conscious of what you're eating.
It might be arm sweeps that you need, not the bread.
I mean, right? Maybe it is, I need to sweep my arm with some butter.
And then put the bread. Yeah.
Yeah. And then just yes, exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
Or maybe you only need 2 bites of bread. And if you do the arm sweeps, your body will tell you that. Right. And then you're not I don't eat bread person. And if you have a bread sensitivity, that's totally fine. But if you don't, do you really want to take that out of your life? Right. Just like there's no flexibility to it. Right. Someone brings you a homemade loaf of bread, and you have to say no, because I don't eat bread. Right. Like think about the fight or flight involved in that. There's a tension to it. Right. Mm-hmm. It's not, oh, wow, how nice you brought me a loaf of bread. I can have a piece and then put the rest in the freezer or whatever, or, there's a tension involved in these challenges. There's I'm going to push through. There's a total tunnel vision, right? Let's open it up a little bit. That flexibility, that rebound, right? So that when bad things happen, we have that flexibility and we don't go to the food, right?
I love it. Well, I have to say, Chantal, I can't thank you enough for your willingness to come on this. Where can people find you?
I am at bodyinsight.com. That's my physical therapy as well as my resilience toolkit website. So it's body, BODY, insight, INSIGHT.com. That's my website. I'm also on Instagram at Chantal Donelly and also at Body Insight Inc. Body Insight Inc. for Instagram.
Are you Donnelly Chantal? Or are you Chantal Donnelly on Instagram?
On Instagram? Oh my God, I don't know. I think I'm Chantal Donnelly. This is how media savvy I am. I don't really know what I'm doing.
Yes. And Heather just put in Laura Zilke. These two women are some of my faves. Yeah.
Oh, it's Heather there. See, I can't see the Facebook. Well, I have no idea who's here.
I've been here watching this whole time, and I told everyone who's watching, Heather, I told them in the very beginning that you are the reason that Chantal and I are having this conversation today. Can't thank you enough, Heather, for doing that introduction of us randomly on the street. Chantal, I want to thank you so much for your time and your wisdom and your willingness to share that with all of us. If you're interested in more of what Chantal does, you can go to bodyinsights.com. And thank you so much for doing this with me.
Thank you, Deanna. Bodyinsight.com, no S.
Body Insight.
And again, I can't see what you've posted there. So thank you. I didn't mean to correct you at the very end there.
No, that's great. Listen, this is our relationship, everybody. I'm just kidding.
Yes. Thank you so much. I am honored to be here talking to you. It's been fun, and I really appreciate you inviting me.
Great. Bye, everybody. Have a great rest of your day.